Okay, now you can open the setup document. And you can follow the setup document. So we have already done our prerequisites. Our VM are already set up, did Vagrant up, all the VMs are up, and we validated everything. Now it's time for provisioning. All these services we are going to provision, but we are going to provision it in this order. First MySQL, then Memcache, then RabbitMQ, then Tomcat, and then Nginx, and then finally we'll deploy our application. Okay, so let's first set up MySQL. So let's log into DB01 where we'll be setting up MySQL service. So first we are going to set up all the services manually so we understand it very well. And next we are going to use bash scripts to set up all those things automatically. Okay, switch to root user and run yum update -y. So we update to all the latest packages. This is always a good practice. When you provision an operating system first time, you patch with the latest packages, with the latest updates. So if there is any vulnerability, any bug in the older packages, that gets updated. And we're going to do this on all the virtual machines. And this is going to take some time, a lot of time actually, and I'm going to pause my video for that much time. Okay, update is done. And now I'm going to set up a variable for database. This variable is, we are going to use this variable to set up password and we're going to execute a lot of SQL commands. And we're going to use this variable to access the password. But this is temporary. So, you can even echo this, right? But as this is temporary, if you log out and log in, this will be lost. So if you want to make this permanent, you can put that into etc profile file. Let's copy that. Let's save it. And let's source etc profile. So that variable becomes permanent. Okay, now I'm going to install a repository, set up a repository, epl-release repository. So you install this package, which is going to set that repository access. Next, we are going to install our packages. We'll need Git and of course MariaDB-server, which will be our MySQL package. Okay, MariaDB package is installed. Let's start the service. Systemctl start MariaDB. We'll also make sure it's enabled, so when we reboot, this comes up automatically. Let's check its status. It's active. Okay, now we will run MySQL secure installation script, this command. So it will ask for the current root password. Just hit enter. Set root password, yes. And set the same password as you have set in the variable. Remove anonymous user access, yes. Disallow root login, this I will keep no for now. Remove test databases, yes. Reload privileges, yes. Okay, so MySQL root password is set up. We can test the login. MySQL-u root-p. Enter the password and we're able to log in. Okay, let's exit. Now we'll clone our source code over here and that's the reason why we installed git. Okay, so we cloned the source code. The reason why we cloned the source code is because we have a SQL file with the SQL queries in a resources directory. That's the path. DB backup SQL file, and we're going to initialize our database with this. But first we'll set up our database. Create the database. So that's the password variable over there, and this command is going to set up database named accounts. Next we are going to add a user in MySQL named admin. Admin user in the database can be accessed from app01 and will have full privilege on accounts database that we just created. Okay, now we will run our DB backup SQL file. So I can run it from here, or we can just be in the project directory, the repository, and I'm gonna run the command to execute this SQL query on accounts database. So I need to give the path src main resources DB backup SQL file. Okay, so it's going to log into the database. On accounts database, it's going to execute all these SQL queries. Okay, finally, flush privilege. Now let's log into the database and do a quick verification. Show databases. So you see the database named accounts. You can switch to that database and run show tables command. So the SQL query has initialized our database with these tables, and we are good. Let's log out from here. If you're using firewall in CentOS, which is firewall D, then I have also mentioned steps to set a firewall rule for MySQL port 3306. So check in the document, you have commands to set up the firewall rules as well. Okay, so DB setup, let's set up now memcache service. Okay, so let's log out from DB and log into MC01. Switch to root user and first run yum update -y to patch this. Okay, all the patching is done. Let's clear the screen. Let's install EPL-release package. And now we will install, let me clear the screen first. And let's install memcached. And that's the only package we need to install over here. Okay, package is installed. Let's start the service. And also enable the service. Let's check its status. It's active. We have to run one more command for memcache, so it can listen on TCP port 11211 and UDP port this. That's so anyways, we're going to access it on TCP port. So run this command and we are good to go. We can validate if it's running on the right port, which is 11211, and we see memcache service. We can see the PID, it's open on port 11211. Okay, memcache is set up. Let's log out from here and let's go to the next service, which is RabbitMQ, RMQ01. Log into it. Okay, we are in. Let's become the root user and let's run yum update -y. So far, for the previous machine, yum update was just a best practice, But in RabbitMQ setup, we definitely need to run yum update, because a RabbitMQ version will be dependent on a latest kernel version and some latest patches. So you definitely need to run yum update command on RabbitMQ VM. Update is completed. Let's set up EPL release repository. And now we are going to install some dependency for RabbitMQ. Install them in same order. First socket. That's done. Next we are going to install Erlang. This is going to take some time. It has a lot of dependencies. Total 144 dependency. That's a huge package with a lot of dependencies. All right, and then we will install also a wget, and wget will use to download the RPM for RabbitMQ. Wget is already installed here. Okay, now let's download RPM. So you can check the link. If you need same version, you can check the link in the document. We download the RPM. Next, we also need to import an RPM key, RPM import, and that's the link of the key. And now finally we are going to install a RabbitMQ. So you can use the option UVH or IVH also. Okay, RabbitMQ server is installed. Let's start the service. Start RabbitMQ-server. And we'll also enable the service. And finally, let's check its status. It's active. Okay, we have few more configuration changes with RabbitMQ. So this command is basically gonna echo this output into this file. And we also have to create user in RabbitMQ. So that's the command, RabbitMQ-ctl add user. That's the username and that's the password. You can change if you want, but then remember whatever username and password you use, because same we are going to give in the configuration file. Next, we are going to give this user administrator privilege. In RabbitMQ, we do it like this. RabbitMQ-ctl set user tag, the username and the tag that we are setting up. Okay, after making this configuration change, it's time to bounce the RabbitMQ service. So we'll just systemctl restart RabbitMQ server. If everything is good, if our configuration changes are good, our RabbitMQ service should be running, or else you can see some error down there. Okay, till here the backend is set up.